Are you flying drones also? Because I'm flying, but race.
Oh. Well, yeah, let's talk about drone. We can talk about drones during the roundtable part because I'd love to hear some of your guys' drone stories. So definitely not a tech I'm up on. Yeah, I'll also check the live stream. For those who are watching, if we are live, just hang on. We're just doing a little housekeeping. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, and anybody who's watching, if you on YouTube, if you see some difficulties, then please reach out to us on the PSF Telegram channel. I've got that in the background, so I'll get a notification if someone wants to send a question or message there. Right on. Okay, well, let's get this kicked off. Today is Wednesday, July 21st, 9 a.m. Pacific time. I am Chris Troutner, and this is the Permissionless Software Foundation Technical Steering Committee meeting. We'll do a quick, brief round of introductions. So again, I'm Chris Troutner. I helped found the PSF Foundation. I maintain the fullstack.cash blockchain as a service, and which uses a lot of the core software maintained by the PSF. Go ahead and introduce yourself there, Stoyan.
My name is Stoyan Zhekov, and I'm helping with maintenance of the JavaScript libraries for the PSF. Yes,
and it's greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
Also greatly appreciated. All right, well, with that, I'm going to share my screen and we'll dive into the agenda. Here we go. As we typically do at these technical steering committee meetings, we're going to go through the agenda real quick. This is basically a chance for us to celebrate the technical achievements we've made over the last couple weeks. And then once we've touched on those, we'll just open the floor to whatever current cool technical topic we want to talk about. And if you're watching on YouTube, we have a Telegram channel. The best way to get there, if you don't know how to get there, is to go to psfoundation.cash, and hopefully Aaron can put the lower third here for that. If you scroll down to the bottom, in the footer, there's a link to our Telegram channel, and we'll be monitoring that throughout these meetings if you want to ask a question or let us know about some technical difficulty in the live stream. But to jump into the agenda, we always start with this PSF core, which makes up the BCH API REST API, BCH.js JavaScript library, and then the Gatsby IPFS web wallet, which is a Gatsby theme for building a web wallet. So a few of the updates in the last couple of weeks around these core pieces of software. Daniel's been very busy. He's basically the lead on the maintenance and improvement of a lot of these core software. He pushed a big update to BCH Wallet Starter. So if you go to fullstack.cash, this is what you'll see. And if you scroll down about halfway, there is this "What type of developer are you?" section. And if you go to the front end, you'll see a video on how to start your own, how to fork BCH Wallet Starter and create your own web wallet. And so Gatsby just released version 3, and which was a major change, and it broke a lot of things. So both the Gatsby theme and this Gatsby Starter has been updated to work with Gatsby version 3.9. So that's good. Just keeping everything up to date so that web wallet is still the go-to place for anybody who wants to start a web wallet that can work with Bitcoin Cash or eCash and SLP tokens on either of those blockchains. There was also a bug in the paper wallet sweeping plugin. So if you go to wallet.fullstack.cash, one of the features on there is that you can send Bitcoin Cash and SLP tokens to a paper wallet and then sweep them from the paper wallet. And so that feature that lets you sweep the tokens from the wallet, there was a bug that I discovered, and actually what caused me to discover this bug was Flex USD, which is an SLP stablecoin. And one of their things that they do to set them apart from other stablecoins is that they airdrop, I don't know what they call it, if it's dividends or interest or whatever, but they're constantly airdropping like little small amounts of stablecoin to the people who hold the stablecoin. And so what this does is it creates, over time, it creates a ton of UTXOs. And this is like nobody else does it. This is a very unique thing. And so the wallet was not designed to handle this type of corner case. And so when you try, if you have a paper wallet that has Flex USD on it, it's constantly getting little stable coins airdrop to it. And so the wallet wouldn't sweep it because there's too many UTXOs to deal with. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. Not sure where that's coming from. But anyway,
that echo was me checking your audio through my phone. So, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I didn't mute my mic.
And so now what happens is if there's more than 5 UTXOs on the paper wallet, it will sweep the first 5 UTXOs. And so if you have, in the case where you have something like Flex USD, or say you have a paper wallet and maybe you collect Spice and you're just like constantly throwing Spice onto your paper wallet over time, this will now work. You just have to sweep it multiple times. Every time you sweep it, it'll pull down 5 more UTXOs. And so you can just keep doing that till you get all the UTXOs off of the paper wallet. So I highly advocate paper wallets. I think they're a great cold storage solution. They're a great way to collect SLP tokens by putting them on a dedicated paper wallet for each SLP token. Kind of like trading baseball cards, or the same way you would preserve, coins or stamps or baseball cards. I have a 3-ring binder full of paper wallets, and that's how I store all of my SLP tokens. And so I highly recommend this. So it's important to me that this sweeping functionality work. And it's also one of the main features that sets wallet.fullstack.cash apart from other Bitcoin Cash wallets out there.
Well, and you also had that video about creating paper wallets with a 3D printer with plastic cards. That is pretty cool. If you're interested in that, you should check that out. I think you put that out like last November or something like that. So it's going to be further down on the list on Chris's YouTube channel. But it's really,
there's
cool.
Actually a link here in the agenda if anybody wants a direct link to it. There's where it says plastic wallets. There's a link. That link will take you to that YouTube video, which shows you how to use a very cheap toy $80 laser engraver and engrave plastic cards with these paper wallets, which is great because it's unique. It's not expensive, but it is time consuming, and so they make great gifts because they're so unique. And it's an excellent way to give cryptocurrency to people who don't know anything and don't want to download anything. It's a great way to just invite them to learn more about crypto because they don't have to do anything. They don't have to download anything. There's no batteries required. It's also a great way you can bury the cryptocurrency like gold. Some people I think that's cool. I don't think everybody thinks that's cool, but it's nice to be able to. I think it's super cool that you can like treat your crypto just like gold. You can bury it and it'll be fine. After like 20 years, you can unbury it, and because it's on a plastic card, it'll be fine.
Well, this also solves that problem where people like, well, if the internet goes down, you can't trade Bitcoin anymore. Oh, yeah, you can. You can actually print up cards with certain amounts of crypto on it, and you can trade those cards like cash.
Yeah, we're going to do something similar to that probably about next year. I've got a lot of people on this island that I live on excited about Decatur dollars. That's the name of the island, Decatur. And we're taught there's a lot of pent up economic activity. There's not really enough dollars to go around. But there's things that people would do if we had our own local currency to tap into it. And so, yeah, I'm planning on doing a bunch of these plastic cards. I still have to figure out like a good way to hide the private key, like under a tamper resistant sticker or something. I mean, luckily we're a small community, so we can actually leverage trust here. But have a feature where you can just quickly scan one of these paper wallets and verify that the funds are still there on that card. And then yeah, you can just trade them like cash. Okay, so going down the agenda, another update in the core software here is
Chris, I got something to say about that. You got to take it one step further. You have to bury the private keys around the island and have it like a treasure hunt for everybody. All right. So they want to get their money. They got to go get a shovel and find out where you buried them.
Well, I want to do that too. That was one of the big bummers when I created GeoDrop, the geolocation game, because that's exactly what I wanted to do. But unfortunately, because we're such a remote area, the tracking part of that app on your phone doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
In a remote area, it works much better in an urban setting. So
yeah,
but yeah, I do like that idea.
Hey, I paid you, but you got to go dig it up. All right.
Yeah. So going down the agenda, I want to give a shout out to all the people recently who have been using fullstack.cash. Thank you, first of all, for buying a JOT token. And then second of all, thank you for reaching out to let me know the difficulties that you've been experiencing with JOT tokens. Clearly, I need to step up the amount of just self-help that I have available on fullstack.cash. And as a step towards that direction, I mean, so far I've had about 3 or 4 people reach out to me in the last couple of weeks trying to integrate the JOT token into their app and not having a smooth experience. And so when that happens, and this JOT token technology is really important to me because this is going to play a role in a lot of the software that we're going to be rolling out over the next few months. And so when that happens, the problem is either the JOT token or it's the way that you're passing the JOT token to the API. And so BCH API now has this new JOT token endpoint, and you can give it your JOT token, and it will tell you, the health information about it, like if it's expired, what just everything that the JOT token, all the information that's encoded in the JOT token. And so there's an Explorer UI on. Actually, let me just pull that up just so people can visually see what happens. There's a curl command, and for me as a developer, that's the easiest way to interact with it. But if that's not your cup of tea, there's a link here to the Explorer API UI, which is it's a visual interactive way to interact with all the endpoints in BCH API. And so there's this new JOT token section, and you can hit try it out, put your JOT token in here, and then hit execute. And so this is an example of an expired JOT token. But if you put your JOT token in there, it'll tell you, about your JOT token, whether it's expired, when it expires, if it's not expired, all the info on it. And so if that comes back, that'll tell you that the JOT token's either fine or not fine. And if it's fine, then you've eliminated one of those two sources of the problem, and now you can just focus on the proper way to pass the JOT token in. And so anyways, I encourage people, if they run into this problem, reach out to me either on the PSF Telegram channel or the BCHJS Toolkit channel, which is linked in fullstack.cash. That's where the website encourages people to go for support. But it's just been great to have this sort of interaction with people actually using the JOT token. I just want everybody to know that I am receptive to the feedback, and I'm taking steps to improve the user experience with that. So yeah, big step in that direction this week. Okay, so moving on, the JSON RPC over IPFS and the pay to write database are a couple research areas that Daniel and I are working on pretty hard. And I just released this new video called Decentralized Blockchain Service Providers. And it looks like this. It's on YouTube. And I really, really highly recommend people watch this video. I think there's some really big high-level takeaways in here. And just want to touch on one thing that I kind of talk about in that video. This is chat.fullstack.cash. It's a developer tool. It's also a end-to-end encrypted instant messaging app if you want to do some quick instant messaging. But if you go in here and you let it sit for a while, you have to create a wallet. And that's one of the things that we'll probably report on in the next meeting. We're going to make this so you don't have to create a wallet. It'll just automatically create a wallet if you don't have one, because it's really an unnecessary step for this developer tool. And you give it a minute. What it's doing is it's going to spin up an IPFS node, connect to the IPFS network, and it's going to find all the other IPFS nodes on the network that are part of this sub network. And so a couple of the things that are in this video is this IPFS BCH wallet service demo. So this is an API that lets you access the Bitcoin Cash blockchain over IPFS, which is better than doing it over the REST API. Well, better is relative. It's slower, so it's not better in that regard, but it is much more censorship resistant. So now someone in China who previously couldn't access the fullstack.cash API can now do so using this technique. But what else? The other thing, the much bigger takeaway here, or the much more valuable thing, I think, for individual developers and people who are watching this, is this service here with the Dash DSL. This is the exact same service running on a desktop here in my shed on a residential property in a residential internet connection on a DSL connection. And I didn't have to do any special networking to have this pop up and compete on par with this expensive cloud service. And so this, I think, is going to be a game changer as we develop this technology. It's going to make it much easier for people to run computer hardware in their home and sell services to other people. Like if you have access to, say, the Filecoin blockchain, you could fork this software and build a service provider to sell access to the Filecoin blockchain or the Avalanche blockchain or whatever your favorite blockchain is. Or if you wanted to sell storage or sell computing power or sell whatever web service you can think of, API access to do some sort of thing. This is going to be an amazing, it's hard for me to communicate effectively the cost savings involved here. There's much less network setup, much less education that you have to know. You don't have to do any port forwarding. You don't have to register a domain name. You don't have to get an SSL certificate. You don't have to learn Nginx. You don't have to know all of these things. You can just run the software, and all that networking gets handled for you. And so that's one big cost savings. But then also the cost savings of being able to run hardware in your own home and sell services, as opposed to trying to set up cloud infrastructure, which you have to pay for every month. And if you stop paying, it all goes away. And so I'm very excited about the improvement to true decentralization that this represents, but also the potential for individuals to sell services from the comfort of their home and earn cryptocurrency.
Now, I got a few questions here because this is really exciting. We talked about this earlier. You can run with pretty much any type of device you want. So say I've got an old cell phone. I could use my old cell phone to also run this way, correct?
Yes and no. I mean, technically, yes, that should be possible. You're going to have a little extra difficulty with a phone. But one of the things I envision this in the future is having software, so a lot of this is packaged as Docker containers, and so there's a learning curve there. If anybody doesn't know Docker containers, they need to learn how to interact with Docker containers. But it's just a little hump, and once you get over that hump, and now all of a sudden you know how to download and run a Docker container. That's the preferred way that I like to package a lot of the software. So in the future, I would like to build some software that would let people run a Docker container on a Raspberry Pi, so that you can have this $100 piece of equipment in the comfort of your own home that you can just hit a couple commands and get it up and running, and then it does something useful for you. So one of the things I'm envisioning is like a decentralized exchange, a DEX, where you could have your Raspberry Pi could have a wallet, and you'd give it some whatever your favorite cryptocurrency is you want to trade, and some stable coins. During the configuration, you just say, yeah, I'm willing to sell this cryptocurrency for 2% above market value, and I'm willing to sell these stable coins at 2% below market value, and or above. It's kind of relative there, but basically so that like you can add liquidity to some general marketplace, and make a profit by doing that, and then you get a bunch of people, just make that experience like extremely easy to set up, extremely convenient, and then you get a whole bunch of people around the world doing that.
Okay.
And now all of a
Yeah.
sudden you have a decentralized marketplace.
So let me see if I get this straight. I've got a Raspberry Pi 4 sitting on my wall right here, and eventually I'm going to be able to program this to trade cryptocurrency or a stable coin at certain rates that I set. So I don't have to sit there and watch the price and go, oh, all right, now I'm going to trade. Now I'm going to trade. It's almost like a a personal high frequency trader for cryptocurrencies is what you're kind of talking about.
Yeah, that's just one thing you could build with this,
Yeah.
but that's something I'd like to build with this. Yeah.
Now, is this something that I can turn on and off? Because I've got a very powerful computer that I use for my editing, but I'm not always editing. Sometimes I'm out in the field. It would be really nice to be able to make money on the investment while I'm out making other money.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, what I envision is like, so here's an example of the same service, this BCH wallet service, and there's two redundant copies of it on the network right now. So if one went down, the other one would still be available. And now imagine if there was 10 of them, and they each individual person running them set their own price. And so you as a consumer of these services, your software could automatically, without any interaction from you, find the one with the best price that's available, at the moment that it wants to consume the service, and negotiate it and get hooked up, and then do that. And so that's what I envision with this. This is the idea behind the sub network, is that what we're doing here, or one of the things that's happening under the hood with this IPFS cord library, is it's creating an on-the-fly subnetwork on the IPFS network. So a subnetwork of IPFS nodes that are all running the same software and communicate with the same protocols. And so yeah, so your computer, when you're not using it, you could start some software up that reaches out and becomes a node in the subnetwork and starts offering services. And then when you need to use your computer and you don't want to be doing that anymore, you just turn it off and it leaves the network, and you use your computer like normal. And so everybody in this network could be, joining and leaving and fluidly creating a marketplace.
I like that idea a lot, and now I need to set up my Raspberry Pi to read my desktop computer for when I'm not doing intensive tasks and turn it on and off, so I don't even have to do that and do that on the fly. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, this is a great idea, and I like this idea of creating a subnet of computers that can come on and off and offer services, but you don't need to necessarily worry as the end user what computer's on and what computer's off. The program's going to find that for you and then use the best one for what you need. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is like, this is a very deep rabbit hole. Like there's 1,001 different applications for this tech. The one that I think is like the low-hanging fruit here is a decentralized exchange, because this is a very real need for everybody, regardless of whatever their favorite cryptocurrency is. You need to eventually like buy food with that cryptocurrency. And for some cryptocurrencies, that's very difficult. And for others, it's not so difficult. But I think we really need to move towards, and we already are. The industry is clearly trending towards decentralized exchanges that let you move in and out of whatever, because the cryptocurrency you have may not necessarily be the cryptocurrency you need to spend. And so just about everyone needs to have some stash of stable coins, and they need to have some low friction way of moving between cryptocurrencies. And that's just the world we're in, and that's the world we're moving to, and that's the industry trend. And so I just want to lean into that trend. And this technology would enable a way for you to just basically empowering individuals to leave and exit the market and leverage their assets, to their own advantage, and really just keeping it broad like that, and then you can take those sort of principles and drill down into specific use cases, like a decentralized exchange, or imagine like the big use case that I'm fixated on is selling access to blockchains, because it takes quite a bit of knowledge and specialized software to get a full node running, and then on top of that, maybe any sort of indexing services. And this is true for all blockchains. So wouldn't it be nice if people with those skill sets could just do that on their own home network, and then provide an API, a REST API or a JSON RPC API, and sell access to that over the internet? Basically taking what I've done with fullstack.cash and just taking it out of the cloud and putting it into the home, and then creating a marketplace of people doing that, offering those services. I think that would just significantly lower the barrier for the entire industry, in terms of adoption, and just making cryptocurrency a much more like pragmatic lifestyle choice.
Well, you're hearing them, people. Here is your new side hustle. Go ahead and start a node and start selling access to a blockchain. And I hate to call it completely passive income, because there's really no such thing. That's a misnomer we get into. All passive income needs some active attention. So, but if you could get this up and running, and with a little bit of active attention per week, you can make some money selling to the blockchain and help to provide a better world for tomorrow.
And so one of the things that's going to make this whole idea more practical is decentralized IDs, or DIDs. And let me just give a quick example of what I think that would look like in this scenario. So I'm copying a JSON RPC command that instructs the software to tell me about itself. This is called the about endpoint. And so here is the full node telling it about itself. And in fact, I think it's a little more impressive if I go to the generic service. And so this is a way for you to be like, hey, tell me about yourself. And then so any sort of information can be here. I've got like a link to the PSF Foundation in here. And of course, this forgive the ugly user interface. This clearly needs to be, but I think one of the things that's going to make this sort of marketplace idea that we just discussed more practical is if you can go to a service, give it this about command, and then they can say like, here's my ID, and you can go out kind of like a Facebook profile, and you can go and look at their profile and be like, oh, this guy's been up since for the last 2 years. And then I can go to this other third-party website that maybe validates like uptime and stuff for some of these services, when those are things that matter to however you're trying to use a service. So I think those are some of the things that need to be developed for this idea to really flourish. Is decentralized identity is a hot topic in the tech world right now, and it's being solved by some very brilliant minds. So we don't need to solve this problem. This problem's already basically solved, particularly by Ceramic, the company. And so I intend to incorporate a lot of that technology into this technology. So once you get decentralized services, which can be pseudo-anonymous, but the people who really want to, like, there's still an element of trust. There's still like a track record. That's what decentralized IDs provide, is the ability to, basically create a decentralized version of Yelp, where you can people can review other decentralized services. And some people are going to want to stay anonymous, and they're going to want to pop up and pop down and be disposable. That's an important use case. But then there's also the opposite of that, where people are going to want to be like, no, this is me. I'm going to attach my real world identity to this cryptographic address, and I'm going to stand behind my services, and I'm going to stay up for a long period of time, so that people can trust me. That and so you get both ends of the spectrum. And that's one of the things that I'm excited about, is that with this technology, we can cater to both ends of the spectrum.
So what you're saying is there's opportunity for somebody out there that wants to run a business as a certification program almost for these decentralized databases.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
all the things that are attractive about conventional business, the best parts of them about, trust and brand and, the withstanding the test of time, staying in business over a period of time. All of those things can still be preserved and can still be projected into this new paradigm.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think that a lot of people misunderstand, like in a free market, they think it'll be a free for all. But in reality, people are incentivized to create companies that say, you can trust these guys. We verified them. And people will compete for that. And we talked about this before, the term trust merchant. And what you're kind of talking about is creating a trust merchant for the decentralized databases. And for those who don't know, a trust merchant is somebody who sells their trust and integrity. So if I am a trust merchant of databases and I recommend a database that's not trustworthy, I lose my product, which is essentially my trust. If I verify them and you have a problem, you're less likely to use me, and other companies are less likely to come to me to get verified. And so companies like this will arise and will fill that void. And if there are people out there that are watching this and you're wanting a good business idea, this might be a good place to start for you.
Yeah, good reminder of the trust merchant, because that's going to be a more important idea as we move forward. The thing that this changes, the big paradigm shift here, is that this is a platform that creates a level playing field. So now not only can, people like Americans, I think a lot of northern hemisphere, northern above the equator people are going to watch this. And those cultures are familiar with the idea of creating a company and a brand and standing behind that brand. But a lot of equally competent people who are not in those countries and are not part of that culture can now compete with those people. So I'm thinking more like, a Nigerian entrepreneur can run hardware and offer services on par with a North American company that's running an AWS instance in the cloud. They're both going to show up in this list, and they both have equal opportunity to, put themselves out there and develop trust and build their brand. It puts everybody on the same equal playing field, because it's just based on the tech, and there's no government regulation to this. It's all just code and protocol.
Yeah, and the thing is that if the guy in Nigeria is servicing people in Nigeria, they're going to get faster response time. And because I think we have this idea that, it's the internet, everything's fast, and it doesn't matter if the data center is, 3,000 miles away, it travels the speed of light, if it's going through light pipe or fiber optic. But the thing is, there are physical limitations to data transfer. And there's a reason that, like with the stock exchanges, these companies that do high frequency trading have their computers as close as possible to the trading floor, because there is a latency that is introduced. And so the guy in Nigeria that's selling his services may actually be able to create a very competitive company within his area and sphere of influence. And I think that's great.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And also the opposite is true, where this is the thing that I've run up against in the last few years with the Bitcoin Cash blockchain, is we're transferring extremely small pieces of data. And so like, I don't need all the performance that I'm paying for with these cloud service providers.
Yeah.
My home DSL connection on a desktop is perfectly adequate to service everyone in the world, up to a point. And so that's the thing, is transferring, particularly in the cryptocurrency space, we're not dealing with huge data packages. We're just dealing with very small pieces of data, and so we don't need the big AWS pipeline that's been set up for like Spotify to push music to everybody. Like that's not the architecture we're dealing with. And so I think that's part of why I'm so excited about this technology, is that it lets people go smaller and be more efficient and use the resources that they already have in their possession.
Well, and this is something you've worked on building for years in a way, and we've talked about this and how this being able to sell your computing power, and it is a little bit like the server client side are being merged together. You can have a laptop that you use as a client side, but somebody else is also using as a server side. Really, really cool. And traditionally, we don't think that way. Traditionally, we think, all right, we need our laptop that's the client, and then I'm going to send information to a server, and somebody's going to pull from that server. And this is a way to say, well, we can kind of bring them more together. And I don't think there's a problem with that, with the processing speeds that are just immense. I mean, look what you could get with a Raspberry Pi 4, right?
Yeah.
Like for $80, you can buy, a 16 gigabyte like memory, 16 gigabytes of RAM on that thing. I think that's right. I may be wrong.
Yeah, I just bought myself one. I spent $150 for a complete kit. It's got 8 gigabytes of RAM, a quad core processor, and that's not just the hardware. It's also like the casing and the power supply and the SD card and everything I need in one box costs $150. It's cheaper if you don't get a full kit like that. But I mean, it's just amazing.
You put a monitor on that and a keyboard, and you have like a computer that beats out anything you had in the 90s or even some of the 2000s. It's just nuts.
It's fully capable of doing a lot of valuable stuff especially if you can now leverage that. I mean, you're getting what I'm saying, and hopefully the people watching this are getting what we're saying is like the hardware is so cheap now and it can do so much, and this is exactly the kind of architecture that will let you could take a $150 Raspberry Pi and sell something incredibly valuable through it.
Well, what we're kind of walking into is the edge computing world, right? So edge computing is a big thing where you're a factory and you've got a microcomputer that works on a piece of machinery, and then it can read data there and make decisions on point, instead of having to send it back to the server and then go, oh no, there's a failure. And by the time it gets stuff back, your machinery is completely messed up. Whereas on the edge computing side, it reads it right there and says, something's wrong. I'm going to shut this down right now until we look at it. And we're kind of merging into that way where we have edge computers. And I like this idea of, it's not just one set computer. Like my computer could go down, but my neighbor's computer could be up. So my program that I'm using could be pulling from all these different points. And I almost think there needs to be a name for it, where it's like, it's kind of like a DAG, or not really a DAG, but like a decentralized unit. But some of these nodes can come on and off at the same time, but the program is reading which nodes are on and off and utilizing those in the best possible fashion.
Yeah, that's exactly the place I'd like to get to.
Yeah, that's very, very cool.
Well, let's go ahead and move on. There's one last thing here in the agenda I wanted to cover. Gary Nadir, who is also working doing maintenance on stuff more on the Avalanche side of the PSF, he created this Avex Cli wallet. It's command line wallet. It complements our SLP Cli wallet. So for those who aren't familiar with it, SLP Cli wallet is a command line wallet for working with Bitcoin Cash and SLP tokens. Avex Cli wallet is a command line wallet for working with Avalanche and their native currency Avex and their native tokens, which are referred to as ANTs, or Avalanche native tokens. And so you get use the same commands, you have the same experience working with two different blockchains. And he just added this get key command, which I was excited to see this. So you can generate a public-private key pair on Avalanche, which is what you need in order to create a paper wallet. So, I've bought some Avalanche and I'm storing them on some of these plastic wallets. That's how I prefer to store a lot of my crypto. So I was pretty excited to see this command get added, because now I can generate on the fly a public-private key pair. I can burn those. I can print those out into a paper wallet, or in my case, burn them onto a plastic card with my laser engraver, and then use the Avalanche web wallet to sweep the private key when I want to retrieve my Avalanche or Avalanche tokens. So that's in place. I'm one of the big things that we're going to be working on over the next few months is creating parity with these two command line apps between the Avalanche blockchain and the Bitcoin Cash blockchain, so that you have largely the same command set, largely the same experience. The code is quite different, and that's one of the things that'll help developers. Is if you are already experienced with Avalanche, you want to know more about Bitcoin Cash, or the other way around, this is an excellent way to compare the same commands and compare the code and see how it differs between the two blockchains. But also this one command in particular, I'm excited that now I can easily produce paper wallets for the Avalanche blockchain.
Very cool. Very cool. And exciting to see what's going to be happening with the Avalanche blockchain as the bridges come online more and more.
Yeah, I went ahead and stopped sharing.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, well, with that, let's open it up. Stoyan, I'm always anxious to hear what's caught your interest over the last couple of weeks.
I will need maybe 10 minutes to talk about stuff. Is it okay?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, I just wanted to continue the discussion from the ComCom meeting about there was talk about this flip starter stuff, and some people was telling that this icon stuff, you're trying to shield your full stack wallet. So I just wanted to, before what I'm working on and why I'm working on this one, just wanted to show how awful is the status of the icon in NFT in the BSH and SOP world.
Good. Yeah, this is something we should
it was
analyze.
More like, yeah, the ComCom was more like a common talk, but now we're a technical meeting. So I just wanted to show some technical details before talking what I work on.
Oh, let me enable sharing. Always forget to do that. Okay, you should be good to share now.
Which one is this? This one, maybe. Can you see this browser stuff?
Yeah, I can see your screen just great.
Okay, so
let me bring you up here, Stoyan. You're good.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Okay, so first talking about the usual icons. In order to have icon for your token, you now just need to fork this project, this SOP token, add your token here and make a pull request, send this to these guys. There's already like here something waiting from long time. So usual waiting time is like 1 week, 2 weeks. And as Chris mentioned before, you never cannot change it. So what will give you this one is just a standard URL to access to your icons. Means it's not blockchain or something. It's just one URL, which you can use from your wallet or exchange or everything. And they mentioned here that these services are using this URL, but in fact, it's not true, because in order to have this thing showed in the SOP, this simple ledger explorer, you need to do additional pull request. It's slightly different repository. This one, block party sh SOP explorer. So you need to do this again, adding your tokens to some file, this one, waiting for very long time. Like you can see here, I waiting 24, 25 days. Other people
25
waiting.
days? Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, that other repo, I saw one pull request from May.
Yeah.
God.
So, and this is usual token. For NFTs, it's even more awful.
So let's just time out here and look at what we have here. So these are, so first of all, you have to know how GitHub works and how to make a pull request. If you make a pull request, you could potentially be waiting a long time. And if they don't like what you submitted, you could be waiting forever, because it requires not just one but two different repositories.
Yeah, it's not permissionless at all, because they are doing what they want. For example, these guys, the latest commits, if you see, it's everything for this market enter the sphere. Only these things are added. So they have some relations, I don't know what, but I mean, it's not permissionless at all. They decide what to add, when to commit, everything. So we're losing the all permissionless, decentralized advantage.
Yeah, and it's centralized. It's based on a web URL. So in China, which has a bunch of AI built into their firewall that automatically blocks, like I'm sure that no one in China went to the bother to be like, oh, fullstack.cash, let's ban them. I'm sure it was completely automated, but I do know that my website's banned inside China, because I've had people inside China tell me that. So this is a good example of how that would, even if they did approve everything and the token worked great in North America, it would not show up inside China, because these websites are probably blocked. And so any artwork coming from that website will also be blocked.
Yes. And so let's go to this Django. It's the most, active exchange in the moment for NFTs. So like you see, you approved, everything is at, you come here to sell your tokens. But if you see one of these tokens, it will be showing the simple ledger explorer. But if you see on the data, there is nothing telling where exactly is this media. So if you have wallet, every other wallet than this simple ledger, it never cannot display this art here. Because all of this thing is, like we mentioned, it's managed by one file, one magic file. Inside this SOP Explorer, there is this group icon repos, and the file format is like, this is the transaction IP of the group, and here is some basic URL where the all icons will be. So this magic file, if your wallet does not have it, you just cannot display any of the Django tokens. And again, this is the extremely centralized, because if you don't have this file, so if GitHub is down or something, all of these 2,000 groups will be down.
Well, I want to make sure too, we're not trying to say the guys that are running this are doing anything nefarious, or they're probably trying really hard and working really hard and swamped with a lot of stuff. And that becomes, and this SLP stuff is blown up, so they might be dealing with a lot of requests, and we are trying to provide a solution that's going to make it easier for the average person, and probably easier for these guys, because they're not going to have so many requests to do when they probably aren't even getting paid to put the token icon up.
Yeah,
but
also to make it not so centralized, because
that's a good point, Aaron. I know these guys. I know JT, and I know Joey, who's behind Enter the Sphere. I've worked with these guys for years.
Yeah.
And if they hadn't built this, there just wouldn't be anything. So this is better than nothing.
Yeah.
But that's what this represents, is it was sort of a move made out of desperation and expediency. And this has been the problem, is that there hasn't been a well thought out or well executed, scheme that's better than this. And so I really do, we really do owe them a debt of gratitude for at least getting the ball rolling. But this is also really healthy for us to. So we're not trying to say these guys are doing it wrong or they're bad. We're just saying, like, this is the current state of things. Let's analyze them in a technical way.
So
I don't want to
point out the flaws.
I don't want to blame somebody. Just wanted to show how is the current state, how much effort you need to put in order just to get one art, like one media, one image.
Yeah, and so I think we do need to look at this. I think we do need to look at this.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stoyan, go ahead.
Problem on the fullstack.cash wallet. It's problem for everybody, everywhere. Yes. Everyone who wants to do with NFTs on the BSH, he need to deal with these problems. So any wallet needs just to do something with this file, and and this is not the only way the media is stored. There is another non-standard ways, like putting directly the IPFS hash or some different other URLs inside the document. So it's very, 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 very fuzzy area.
Yeah, so we respect if you guys that created this are watching. We totally respect what you've created, and we appreciate it, and we validate what you've done, and we would like to help take it further. And that's what we're talking about with this mutable token protocol. And I think, Chris, you've made it very clear that we don't necessarily need it to be fullstack.cash. You can fork the wallet, you can create your own software, you can create your own wallet. We just are worried about a protocol that can help the end user to easily create mutable token data, because right now so many tokens are created on Ethereum, and it is very, very expensive to create tokens on Ethereum compared to Bitcoin Cash or even eventually eCash or AVEX. And I think that if we were able to solve this problem, we would see a lot of NFT creators flock to the Bitcoin Cash blockchain for just that reason. It cost me a tenth of a penny to create an NFT or to create tokens on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain, whereas Ethereum, it can cost me more in gas fees than it costs to actually produce the NFT. So that's a big problem and something that I think we can solve.
Yeah. And for people who aren't familiar with what we're talking about in terms of this, the specification that we've been working on, the broad scope is that it's like a recipe. It's a series of steps that you can do before you create your token. That then when you go and create the token, you put in the piece of data, and then now you can change the icon anytime you want. No one, and you're under full control of that. And then wallets can easily read that data, like the token icon, and display it. And so, it's been just to follow up on this. I put something out on the RBTC Reddit and got some pretty interesting and mixed feedback. Some people, it was interesting. The first couple people were like, I don't really understand. I don't think this is important. I wouldn't put any money in this, which then caused the people who actually care about the problem to step up and be like, no, this is a huge problem. There was a couple people who, like Stoyan, weren't afraid to give their firsthand accounts of all the friction that they've run into around trying to get trying to launch a legit token for a legit business and get a legit icon, and just how damn difficult that process is. So some people really clued into it, and so there's definitely people out there feeling the pain. And this is great story. And I learned something here, because I hadn't really seen the full process. So it's really interesting to see how the sausage is made.
Yeah, I didn't know this either.
Yeah. So back to what I'm working on. Like we mentioned, we don't blame people. We just deal with the situation. So what I'm trying now is to add to this BSH GS NFT library that I'm working recently on. I'm trying to add this call, get payload. So you just provide it with a token ID. And because for several, if you have several of these guys, I don't want to repeat the same code again and again. I will provide this file, this JSON guy long stuff. I just getting it once with this command, and I will provide it to the code to this function get payload. So getting it one time, and if I have, for example, a group of tokens, like I would try to put this in the wallet.fullstack.cash views, but I will get this group file just once and send it to every one of the tokens in the group. So, and this get payload, it will evolve with the time, because in the moment it's trying to deal with us lotus these different schemas stuff. So it's getting this group file, checking if the group is there. If it's there, it's getting this URL for the group, adding the token ID to this, and return finally one URL. If it's not this one, if it's some thing starting with QM, means it will be maybe IPFS hash. It do something. So I think with time I will add more and more to this get payload. Like I want to add now this BCP stuff or the media format that you're working on. But for the final step, the one that the exchanges or wallets will use, it will not change. It will be always just get payload.
That's awesome. Yeah. One call that sort of goes through all the different token standards. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. But I want here to make a small discussion about, I was not sure how, like there's in the moment two ways to deal with this stuff. One way is to check for the tokens which are in the current wallet. So in this case, I can get this stuff with the UTXO get call. And also I can use the BCH API code that we created before some time, this parent NFT group for a token, and it will return information. So this is the one way, the tokens in the wallet. And the other possible stuff is to send, to pass to this function any token ID you want. And in this case, this need to be implemented with calls to the SOPDB. So you call SOPDB with this token ID, get the information from there, parse it, do something. And I'm not sure what is good for us. If I think only about the wallet full stack, it will be tokens in the wallet, and we use the calls that we already have.
Well, this is exactly the kind of service that I think would be really valuable to put. This is exactly the kind of use case I'm targeting with that decentralized services. This is actually probably a feature that should be added to SLPDB. It should live there, not necessarily in BCH.js or in the wallet software. It should just be part of the SLP infrastructure. That's probably the most appropriate place for these features to go. But lacking that, there's and this is sort of how the SLP ecosystem has evolved, is because SLPDB has its limitations, and so there's these other features like SLP list is a NPM package that will do just validation, and it'll do it on the fly. And so that's an example of a service that if for some reason SLPDB is not functional or can't do something, here's like an alternative service that can fill that gap. And that's kind of what you're pointing out here is like maybe we need a service where you give it a token ID and it returns back to you the artwork and just all the metadata about the token.
Yeah,
am I capturing that right?
My point was, do we want this code to only check for the tokens inside the wallet? So to check first if this token ID is inside the wallet, because with this one, it was simple, but asking SOPDB is more general. It can be used not only inside the wallet. For example, I'm using this inside my NFT checker. This guy, I'm not sure if it's still working. Okay, local app. Because this guy, it does not care where exactly is the token. You just give him a token, the transaction ID, and it will show you all information about this token.
Okay.
And it's good like a general application. It's not wallet, it's nothing. It's just like a viewer.
Well, that would be that sounds like it would be best located inside BCH API. That's just another API endpoint in there.
Well, I think there's two different use cases here. There's the use case of the end user that wants NFTs as a media, a trophy, a possession, something like that. And then there's the use case of, say, a restaurant that is giving out tokens for discount, right? Like maybe using something like geodrop.cash. They probably want a wallet that only scans for that particular token ID, right, for their discount. So they want the ability to put in the token ID so that when the person shows the token, which I think we also need to work on, and it shouldn't be too hard, but like creating a QR code out of the token ID. So like when the token hits the wallet, say it's a discount token, a secondary QR code will be made that validates that token ID so the restaurant knows it hasn't been a falsified token, right? Because you can go and say I create restaurant token and I distribute them through Geodrop, but then some tech savvy person also creates restaurant token, right, with the same moniker and everything. The only way to tell that apart is the token ID. So if we can hash, well, not hash, but make a QR of the token ID, right, that can easily be scanned, and that business also has a wallet that they've entered in. We're only looking at this token. We don't care about indexing the entire SLP database. We just want to see this token and make sure this token is in this wallet, right? So I could see both functions having a use case, but for different reasons.
So which one will we want to implement in BCH GS library?
I think the one in BCH.js, I think you would give it, well, in terms of BCH.js and BCH API, I think it would be the more generic call where you just give it a token ID, and then it gives you back the data about that token. But then in the wallet software, that's where the wallet's only concerned about what's in the wallet. So it really is two different use cases, where you start out with the general call in BCH API, but then the wallet leverages that call. Does that make sense?
I think you're talking about two different products. I mean, we've been talking about projects versus products. You have one product which is concerned of the tokens in that wallet, showing you their icons, showing the media, stuff like that. You have a secondary product, which is use case is discounts for a restaurant or a business. And so that would be a different set of code. That would be different plugins. That would be put together and piece like a Lego box, like we've been talking about, to service that business. So,
yeah. Well, my thinking is also in terms of rate limiting and performance from the user's perspective. You're not like, let's say you have a not an NFT but a fungible token, and let's say you have 3 UTXOs that all each represent different quantities of that same token. Well, the wallet app, you're not going to want to call that endpoint to get the artwork 3 times. You just need to call it once. And but the other like the get call, which hydrates it, so that those tokens can be spent, that does need to be called 3 times. And so in this case, like, that's why I think this would be better as an endpoint in BCH API on a per token basis. So you call it once for each class of token, and then it's up to the wallet software to decide how often and when to make that call. But I want to make sure I understand what you're asking, Soyan. Am I missing the mark? Am I getting to what you're really asking?
I think yes. If we decided to use the first approach, it will make a call to the BCH API.
Mm-hmm.
This one, like, we have already this implemented.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you give this guy a transaction ID, it will get the parent. Like, it's in the moment it's work only for the child tokens because they have media attached. So it will get the parent group. It will, with this guy that we already created, and from info for the group, it will extract some information. But if you decide to be more general, then you cannot use this call because it's not in your wallet. Token ID you give it. I think now our BCH API call will check if the token is inside this get UTXO get. You getting the UTXOs inside your wallet, and it will check if this token is there.
Yeah. Well, so this call, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is what I'm asking. That call will return all of the children, parent NFT group, or no, it'll return the group, the group
of these children.
Yeah, the group of that child, and then from there you can do the other call and get all the children.
You don't need to get children.
Okay, you just need to get the group.
Because this call receive the token ID, like this one, this thing, and it will return the media for this child. So how will do this guy? It will get the parent group. So for this guy, child view parent. It will
so you have the child, you get the group.
Yeah, with this call. And if you remember this call, it's returning a small JSON with like ticker for the group and stuff like this. And also it will contain like document URL on this info. So from there you can decide, is this group a part of this special JSON file or no? And if it's from this JSON file, you can get some information.
Oh, like, these IDs are for our group IDs. They're not NFT IDs. They're not child IDs.
Yeah, this one will return the group ID.
Well, no, I meant that JSON file from.
Yeah. So it's, if this token ID is not in your UTXO, you cannot use this call at all. So in this case, you need to access directly the SOP database.
So is the
payload? So you cannot use UTXO calls for the wallet, right? You need to go directly query the SOP DB database.
And see, that's why I think it's more appropriate as an endpoint in BCH API, because in from the wallet standpoint, if you're talking about a
Mhm.
user using a wallet,
Mhm.
they're going to have the NFT. I don't know why they would want to query information about the group token.
Yeah,
They-
that's why if you want to implement this thing for wallet, it
Mhm.
will be this thing. But if you want to BCH library to be more general, so to be used in other kind of applications like this checker,
Mhm.
this guy, there is no wallet, there is no UTXOs. He just gets this transaction ID.
Mhm.
So in this case, it need to go to the SOPDB and get all this information from there.
Okay.
So
Yeah, and that's fine because this is more like a block explorer use
yeah,
case. It's not
so
really a
if
wallet
you
use
want,
case.
so the question is how we will use these BCH GS NFT functions. Will they be mostly for wallet, or we need to be more general so can be used in explorers or something like this one?
Yeah, I think the main difference to separate these use cases is performance. In this sort of I'm going to call this a block explorer use case.
Mhm.
In this sort of block explorer use case, the user is willing to wait a long period of time in order to get the information that they need.
Mhm.
But in the wallet use case, it needs to be really snappy and fast. And so you need to avoid getting any data that you absolutely don't need.
Yes,
So
that's why
is the
you get it.
payload located with the parent group, and then the child token is used to access the payload?
No, it's located. It's
Or-
connected to the child,
okay.
but uh,
So
but what is the bad? In case of these jungle traded tokens, you just get one uh, transaction ID, so you cannot figure where exactly is the media without getting the information for the group.
Mhm.
And this information is here.
okay.
That's
So
interesting that they
yeah,
tied it in with the
inside
group.
Does every child
usually
token have the
not
same picture?
not same picture, same basic ID.
Same.
So
Okay.
like for example, let's does not talk empty words and just get one of these tokens.
So is it like a double verification? So like verifying that you have the child token ID, and then verifying that that's part of the parent group?
Yes, it's part of the valid
Okay.
group. So for example, let's see this
Yeah,
guy.
that's the verify. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the part we were missing. Was this secondary verification system they have
Yeah.
where you
So see
the
this
website
is,
has to have the token ID on it, and that's how it verifies.
so for this guy, I want to get this picture where it is. So see, you have only this thing,
Mhm.
token ID. So you need first to get the group
Mm.
for this token. So you go to the group and you get the token ID for the group. So you need to find now what is the basic IP for this group. So you need to get this JSON file and search for this thing. And okay, we found this is the guy, the basic IP, basic URL for this guy. So we use this one. Plus, it has some special like sizes for the icon. So it's like original is the original size. And after this, you get this
Oh, and then
transaction ID, and you have pink format. If you know all these guys, you finally get the picture.
Mhm.
So you cannot get the media only having the child token information. You need to get the group information and figure what is the basic URL for the group. And
anybody who goes to all the trouble to figure this out and implement it in their wallet could have
yeah,
everything change out from under them at any time.
yes. So it's, let's see, very, very difficult process to, and this is for this type of stuff. If you take a look on this new stuff, this market enter the sphere, they decide to do this differently. So if you see their tokens, they don't need already this information. They finally realized, okay, it's not very good to have all of this interaction. So these tokens are already with
That's hilarious. I know Laura. Her cards are only trading for $4. I need to buy that thing.
yeah. But so yeah, sorry, it's very slow here, but they finally start using IPFS to. So if you see this stuff, you can see document URL is already direct access to the IPFS. So you can get the media directly, only having the child NFT information.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't like it very much because they have started it with the exact gateway URL, which make this centralized again. They just need to provide the token and everybody can use their own gateway.
Yeah.
Like maybe IPFS service that.
That's definitely an improvement. That's a step in the right direction.
But it's very good step. So they already have media on IPFS, which means it's more permanent, and they have document URL directly for the token. So you can directly connect any token to his media without going through all this Explorer stuff and everything.
Yeah, see,
so
that's how I thought it was done.
Yeah. No,
this is the way that people are starting to do it now.
Yeah.
It's moving, but we still have like, I don't know, 2,000 or more tokens in the jungle that people would trade and expect to see in their wallets.
Yeah, see, this is part of the trade-off. Is I could see an argument for one, like, so on the one hand, the way that Enter the Sphere is doing it is better in that it's more permanent and more available, but it's also worse in that they can never change the artwork for that token now. It's locked in and it is permanent as permanent gets. Whereas with Jungle, they could actually change the artwork that token points to, and that is both a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, no, it's worse. How to see the Jungle? You can change the artwork is not a good thing because this means it's not non-fungible.
Right.
They can sell you Mona Lisa and next day to replace it with some like kids art. So it's not a certificate for non-changeable media.
Yeah, what are you actually buying? Clearly
you're
not
buying
the
just
artwork.
this picture. So yeah, it was not so good, but since it's moving, but I mean, as a wallet and library provider, we need still to deal with all of these ways to have different document URLs.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think this call will evolve still in time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So so since we've spent some time talking about these two different schemes of attaching artwork to an NFT, where you can point to a content addressed location like Jungle's doing, and there's and as we've talked about, they can change the artwork that's pointed to, versus the way that Enter the Sphere is doing it, which is more authentic but also immutable, which is again both good and bad. This token spec that we've been discussing, if people aren't familiar with it, it's sort of a middle of the road approach where you can change the artwork pointed to by the icon, but in order to do that, you have to cryptographically sign a message essentially. And so anybody who changes the art, there's like on the blockchain, there's going to be an audit trail of any change that happens that anybody can look at. And only, there's going to be a private key. So somebody's going to be in possession of that private key, or some organization's going to, but that's the person who can change the artwork and no one else. And so I think it provides I think we're kind of looking at two extremes here. And I think that's educational because it helps emphasize like, being able to change the artwork when you're talking about fungible tokens in particular is very good thing. Not such a good thing when it's an NFT.
Well, that also depends on what we're talking about with NFTs. We've had many discussions where, like, I personally don't think artwork NFTs are necessarily the total future and use case of NFT tokens. I think that having the mutability enables somebody, say you're a young coder or something, and you come up with a very novel piece of code, and you could lock it up with an NFT and sell the child tokens, kind of like jot tokens, but then they have revocability as well, because you could blacklist that particular token or whitelist whatever tokens you want. And I think that we're going to see a different use case when it comes to NFTs and how they work. We've talked about stuff like property, transferring property and transferring record of property, things of that nature. So, I see a good and bad. There's, if I want to make it art and I want to make it permanent, I might go the way that Sphere's going and just upload it to IPFS and say, this is a piece of artwork. It's permanent and that's it. I might have the ability to change the token icon. And that depends on the wallet too, because like the wallet can look at what we're talking about with the mutable spec. First and foremost is just the token icon. So when the wallet looks at the transaction ID to look at the address that has the most recent transaction, it's just going to pull the icon for the token, not necessarily change the location of the payload. Could be that down the line, we also add something to where it's also going to look through that transaction ID for the payload, or maybe it's something in the multiple op. Now that we have a multiple op return, maybe we say first one is token ID, second one is payload, right? So if I do write a piece of code and I stick it up on IPFS, but there's a bug and I need to change it, I don't have to issue new tokens. I simply make another transaction and that changes the payload.
Yeah, and to just complement what you said, I think the real value here in our mutable token spec is that there is a place for immutable data in it, and there's a place for mutable data in it. So depending on the use case, and this discussion around artwork and NFTs and the different use cases for NFTs, I think is perfect, because if you decide that the artwork itself is what you're selling, and that's the part that needs to be immutable, that can go into the immutable part of it. But if it's a different use case, like a fungible token, and you want to leave the door open to being able to rebrand and change your icon down the road, then the icon can go in the mutable part of the specification.
Well, let's roll with you're an artist, right? Say you're an artist that's producing regular content. You produce a piece of artwork every month. You could sell an NFT token that gives access to that newly monthly content. And the mutable data spec makes sense for that. I don't have to issue people new tokens. They can simply use the same token to access the new artwork. And then after the month has passed, I could issue that artwork on a permanent NFT basis if somebody wants to buy it permanently. Or if this works great if you're a musician. Maybe I'm going to do a single a month. So every month I upload my new single and then I do another transaction. And so the people that have that token are listening to my new single for that period of a month. And then it's the next single. And if they want to buy the single itself after that period of month, I have permanent issued NFT tokens that they can do that with.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's an interesting use case.
Yeah.
It's more interesting with asynchronous art. If you see this one, you can sell. We was talking with Aaron, I think, before about this. You can have layers inside your song or inside your picture, and you can sell different.
I'm sharing my screen, Aaron.
Yeah, you can sell different songs or art containing different layers, to everybody. So everybody can have NFT, but customized for him. Like, for example, this guy, the skeletons, they have night version, and and you can buy one or two, like this.
Okay, yeah. So I have an artist friend who's been, I don't know if it was this site, but she was telling me about this, about how, just sort of this very simple programmable ability where there's a daytime version and there's a nighttime version.
Yeah.
And then there's also, I've seen ones where there's just like most of the art is static, but then just like the water or something very minor will be animated, and the rest of it will be still. I'm not seeing any of these with multiple.
There was one interesting, like some, I think, where was this? I think here, you can choose, for example, to be a golden ring or a silver ring, stuff like this one, and mint it to be unique for this guy, like customized. Or cool. the stuff you can see on the top, there's art or music menu. So in case of music, you can sell, for example, more drums or more something to somebody if he pay more. So you have like a master template, but you can mint different stuff from it.
Oh, okay. So this one has 5 layers. So I if I'm understanding this correctly, the art will change depending on different things.
And you can mint
throughout
unique.
The day.
So it's like 5 layers, like multiply 3 possibilities. I don't think 14 different versions just for this one.
Oh, so just parts of the artwork change.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
And you mint it, and it's unique for this guy.
I like, one of the things that I like is the idea of playing with time with NFTs. I think, say you create a game, like CryptoPunks has been, huge, of course, but imagine not only do you have CryptoPunks, but they have 7 or 8 levels of maturity, right? And they mature by the length of time you hold them in your wallet. Now, you could even make it have even more rare and more fun, because you could have some of the same characters. Maybe you have 3 or 4 of the same characters, and only one of them will reach full maturity. You don't know who that is, so you're incentivized to trade for them or hold them. You have this, do I hold the character, or do I trade the character, because this guy could only go to a level 2, but nobody knows, So maybe I'll trade him, but he has to be in the wallet like a certain amount of time in order to level up. And if you got that level 8 guy that's super rare, there's only like 4 of them out there, he could be worth a lot of money. Yeah,
and see this, I'm see that this is cool. So the woman changes her, that's awesome. It's the same woman, but with different looks. So see this type of programmability, with regard to our NFT or our mutable data spec for tokens, this type of programmability could go into that mutable part, and it could use any programming language. I mean, it could just be JSON data, but then it could also like react to the blockchain. It could make a call to the blockchain, and so the original artist could be the one pulling the strings for the different animations, or it could be based on the weather, or it can be based on some sort of external input that affects these kind. I'm assuming that, I don't know how this is done. I'm assuming this is on Ethereum, and I'm assuming these are driven by a smart contract somehow. And so it's the same idea, just expressed in a different way. And I think, personally, I would prefer to have that level of programmability off chain, because it's going to be much easier to develop and much easier to maintain.
Yeah. And that's where we get into the pay to write database. Yeah.
Well, just in general, I think this is a great example of programming that I think is, because we're talking about crypto tokens here. I stopped sharing there, Aaron.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about crypto tokens, um, the sort of native place for that programmability to live would be in the smart contract on chain. But it's also a great example of something where, boy, that from a developer standpoint, that's a problem. Like I would much prefer that programmability to be off chain, because it's just going to be so much easier to build and so much easier to maintain.
Well, here's another cool idea that I'm thinking of. All right, say you're a musician, right? And you sell your song. But using the mutability aspect, you could change the location of the payload to be a live stream address. So all of a sudden, for those people that own your token, they have this spur of the moment live stream concert of your band at, 3 o'clock on Wednesday. We're doing this live stream, and all they got to do is click their wallet, and boom, they're live streaming you for that time. And then if you want it to go back to being the song, all you do is just make another transaction. It's back to being a song. For that very short moment window in time, they have a live stream access that only they have, and only they have because they're the ones that have the tokens.
Yeah, you could do the same thing with an airdrop. That would be kind of like that's one thing that your use case that I haven't heard a lot of talk about is, if you have an NFT, that's like your initial seat, that's your ticket.
Yep.
But then that also becomes like a homing beacon, and so when you have a on the fly live stream, like you airdrop, you don't have to know who that person is. You don't need to know their email address. You can airdrop another token to them, and then that token has the information for the live stream.
Yeah. Well, I really honestly got to get more familiar with airdrops, to be honest with you. So.
Well, it's a little different on each blockchain, but that's one of the really cool things about SLP tokens is that, or at least SLPDB, because it has this rich query interface. So you can pull down all the addresses that hold a token, and then you use that as your map for the airdrop.
Yeah.
And that's what we would do with the PSF token. If there was ever like we got hacked and we lost our keys, or I got hit by a bus, any one community member could just query all the addresses of PSF token holders and then airdrop a new token of the same quantity, and then the whole system keeps chugging along.
Well, you getting hit by a bus is a big problem on your island. There's a lot of buses out there.
yeah. Thankfully, it's a very low risk.
I think it's more you getting electrocuted by a graphene supercapacitor.
That's a high likelihood.
Oh.
Okay, guys. Well, it's been about an hour and a half. I think we should wrap this up. But man, it's been a great talk, and I've learned a few things about tokens and NFTs today.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit the outro. For all those who are watching online, hit us up in the Telegram. Hit us up personally through Telegram if you want. We're all in the PSF channel. And we thank you very much. Sam I Am Records, if you're still watching, thanks for being on, bud. Really appreciate you giving us some feedback on the audio in the comments. Got all that stuff worked out. And we'll see you guys next week for the ComCom meeting. All right.